Hi everyone, it's Typology back again, and as you can see by the background / lighting, we're talking about a dark topic today. It's nothing too serious, but we're talking about the dark side of typology. So let's jump into what I mean by that. So the dark side of typology is essentially when typology goes from a positive influence in your life to a negative influence in your life. And it's when it goes from helping you to hindering you. It's when it goes from being a way to view yourself to a way that you define yourself, right? And those are very vague and is it commucous, something like that statements, right? So we're gonna jump into, we're gonna clarify it, we're gonna see what do I mean by that. So the first one goes from being a positive influence to a negative influence. So it's when typology goes from something that you see as, oh my goodness, this is so interesting, I'm really relating to these functions being the thing that I build my personality on. This is really cool. I really like this. It's really cool. These people that I meet in here are really interesting to talk to. They're really helping me out with, getting over the issues that I'm facing, and I'm doing vice versa. It's really awesome. I'm finally meeting people that seemingly do understand that my issues and flaws aren't all about, aren't set in stone and they can change. And it's fantastic when that happens. But it can get very toxic when you go from viewing it like that to viewing it as, oh my goodness, because I have this cognitive function, my issue's never going to change. Oh my goodness, because I have TE last, or I don't know, NE last, or whatever cognitive function you think you have last. Oh man, that's it. It's set in stone. It can't change. I can't improve. And you go from a growth mindset to begin with to a fixed mindset, and it is horrible. Because that is now going to make you view everyone of that type, including yourself, as the same person, which is not what typology is about. It's about showing you how different individuals, even of the same type, are going to have different life journeys, and through their life journeys, not through their label, not through those 4 letters, not through those 8 cognitive functions, or 4 cognitive functions, depending on what model you want to use. But, let's not talk about that. Depending on those labels, that's who you are, versus, oh, I did this, and I did this, and I did this. Oh yeah, and I'm a XXXX type. It can be horrible. It can get to a point where you define yourself based on these letters of the alphabet and these concepts. And in reality, you should be defining yourself on what you're doing right now, right? And if you are in a bad spot, I'm really sorry, and it sucks. And I know how it feels, man. I know how it feels to go through traumatic stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to go and project myself onto you, as I kind of have been doing, and we'll get into that. But I don't want to project my own, darkness onto you, or I don't want to assume who you are. But I just want to tell you that if you're getting to think this way, if you're thinking that finding your type is going to solve all your problems, it's not a good, mindset to be in. And the reason why is because your type isn't really going to solve any problems. All your type realistically is going to do is that it's going to give you like something that you already unconsciously, intuitively know, where it's like, oh, I have a problem with consistency, or I have a problem with, I sometimes feel really da-da-da, and then I feel really up, and, emotional spikes and waves, stuff like that can be really painful. But then your type gives you oh, I get it, okay, so I can now measure this through this idea, through this concept, and then I can kind of deal with it, and I can talk to other people that have similar situations to me, and I can start relating to people rather than falling into my own little bubble and viewing everyone of this other type as the quote-unquote bad guy, or as the ideal type that I can never be. These are just all examples from my experience, but I know that there's probably going to be a ton more from your experience, and I'd like to hear that in the comments below. I'm absolutely happy to talk about that. If you want to talk with me at any point, you can go and send me a friend request on Discord. That's in the description. That's no ad. That is definitely an advertisement. But if you really do want to talk about this with me, and you're in a pretty negative situation when it comes to viewing typology, believe me, I've been there. I know how that feels, and I'll do everything that I can to help you out of that. So yeah, that's the problem. That's when typology goes from making you to kind of hindering you. And typology shouldn't make you in the first place. Typology should be what shows what makes you. It shouldn't be what, oh man, I'm a ENFJ, and that's why I'm a good person. It's like, no, man, like, you're a good person that happens to be an ENFJ, right? You're a good person that happens to be a ISTJ. You're a hard-working individual that happens to be a 9FP, right? I'm trying to sort of subvert expectations and stuff. Yeah, and that goes vice versa. You can't go and say this person's bad because they're an ENTJ or they're an ESTJ. It's like, no, man, like, this person's probably bad because of some upbringing that's happened in their life, or just their temperament. Their temperament that doesn't really have much to do with their type. I'm not talking like ST, NF, SF, and, you know, the other stuff. I'm talking about generally just your temperament, which is already built on to your function stack. Like, that's there. Your temperament's over here. Your function stack's here. So the ground's already been built on. So yeah, it works both ways. It can mess your view of reality up, and I'm going to jump into my personal experience, because after all, that's what you, random viewer on the internet, care about. So, my story is that I got into typology in around March of 2020, after I watched a video by Jordan Taylor taking the 16 personalities test. If you don't know who that is, it doesn't matter. They still do run a channel called Blimey Cow that I found absolutely hilarious. So he took that test, but that's interesting, I'm going to try it too. I came out as an INFP, as most people did, or an INFJ or something like that. Those are the most common results as far as I know. Probably like INTJ and INTP are pretty common as well. Most of the intuitive types are going to be common there. But yeah, I came out as that. Like, that's awesome. Okay, what does this mean? What does this INFP stuff mean? That video was absolutely hilarious, where it proved that he wasn't an extrovert. That was amazing. Anyway, yeah, video was hilarious, but I want to look more into this IFNP thing, right? That's what I was like. So I was like, okay, I'll look into it. So I got into it. I got into a lot of YouTube videos. I watched a lot of Eric Forr's stuff. Eric For, C.S. Joseph, Frank James, some objective personality stuff actually, and it was the building blocks of typology, and it was awesome. I joined a few Discord servers. I was talking to people, and I was taking my type as like, I'm an INFP, but that isn't that interesting, right? Like, I'm an INFP, but right, and yeah, it was fine. I was just having really constructive conversations with people. There were times where it got toxic and type was blamed, and I was like, oh dang, that isn't very helpful. But little did I know that in a few months I could fall into that as well. And what caused that was this absolute dread of me being one letter off, 2 cognitive functions off my type, and I could possibly be an ISFP, right? Because for whatever reason, NE is better than SE, even though you can't really put cognitive functions into a tier list. They're not fighting characters in a video game. You have all of them anyway. My phone just went off. See, even my phone is being like... I wish that I set my phone thinking the Imperial March. That would have been appropriate. But yeah, it got to the point where I was comparing functions, and because I'd already been surrounded by most people of this one type, it got to the point where I viewed other people of a certain type as the way they would describe them to me. And it can suck. And that shows that your media diet when it comes to this stuff, it's ridiculously important, right? And that's why I will always advocate for never say someone is bad because of their type. Never say someone is good because of their type. Have their type just be a side thing, right? Have their type be something that you look into and you think, that's why they do what they do, but it doesn't make them the bad person that they are, right? And it's horrible. Don't ask why I had anything against SE. I don't know. I still don't know. I don't have anything against it now. I'm like, there's like NE or SE. They're technically almost the same cognitive function to an extent, except one's focused on facts, the other one's focused on concepts and stuff like that. The concepts sound cool, right? That's something that a lot of people can do. They can put value on the stuff of other types and stuff and then devalue other types. It's why the intuitive bias is a thing. It's why a lot of people tend to identify as being a feeling type rather than a thinking type, and they don't necessarily exist, right? You know, I'm talking about the basics here. Yeah, that's that, man. Like that's my very short story, basically, and it ended with me getting into objective personality, and that was really useful because objective personality is the only system that I found that actually preaches that your type doesn't necessarily matter. It's a good way of measuring things. It's a good way of putting things in context and giving you words to describe certain things that you haven't been able to say in English words before, or whatever language you speak words, but you know exist. It's a way to bring the unconscious into reality, but it's not all there is, and that's really good. Objective personality really did pull me out of that toxic mindset, and it's why when I first made this YouTube channel thing, the first thing I wanted to do was that I wanted to make a series of videos that talked about why every single type is awesome and their weaknesses and their strengths. And I wanted to do all the sensors first, since firstly they aren't covered as much. Secondly, their strengths are typically undermined. Right? Typically it's, oh yeah, you respond really well in situations, and you're realistic, whatever that means, right? In the same way in intuitives, abstract. But everyone's going to have a different definition of what abstract is. So I wanted to kind of clarify that stuff. So yeah, that's my story. That's how I want to do it. I want to end this off with just one little thing of me talking to you, dear viewer, personally. So I just want to tell the guy or girl or whoever it is, dog, watching this video, that if you're viewing typology like this, you can walk away. It might just, this might not be for you. It might not be for you right now. It might not be for you forever, right? Because if you're looking for something to define yourself based off of a couple letters or based off of something that you can't control, this is not the place for you, in my opinion. And I'm not saying that to put you off or to make you, disheartened. I'm just saying that as in, this is not what the typology community should be, and it's not what the typology community is to begin with. I've never seen anybody that I talk to define someone based on what type they are. They typically use it as an explanation why, not an explanation on how or what they are. And if you are feeling like that and you're defining yourself based off of 4 or 8 cognitive functions, I think that you need to at least take a step back, and you need to sort of take a break from this stuff and really just get reacquainted with who you actually are, not who you want to be, right? Not what, type you want to be and emulate, because that's a problem that a lot of people run into as well. I'm currently talking to someone who's suffering from that issue. I'm making it look like that I am a psychologist. I'm not. I'm making it look like that I am an expert. I'm not. But yeah, it's concerning when that happens. It's like I said, it's going from a positive thing to a negative thing, and when that happens, you have to take a step back. You have to take a break, and then just sort of be like, I need to just live my life rather than obsess over what personality type I am. So I just want to end this off by saying that this is going to sound really cliche, but you as an individual are the writer of your story, not your type, and you are an original creation that deserves to have a story be told that isn't just, this person was a ISTJ, or an ENFP, or an ISTP, or a INFJ, or something like that, right? Doesn't need to happen. And you don't have to figure out your type to figure out these issues. You can go on to other self-development places, as long as they're not trying to indoctrinate you into seeing things only their way and not letting you have free thought. If they are, that's when you have to really go out of everything and then journal into yourself over what's going on with me, what's actually happened in my past. Then you can do it. The last thing I want to happen to you watching this video, or anyone in the world, is for them to have their own individuality and identity ripped away and forced to conform to basically a cult. Last thing I want to happen, there's quite a lot of that happening in typology community. It's very easy for that to happen because it's a quote-unquote personality community. It doesn't happen a lot. I'm not throwing out any names. I don't personally think that any of the big guys in the community necessarily do that, but it's that I see anyway. you know, sucks, and it's painful that you might have to take a step back of something that you're actually quite passionate about. But please, it will be worth it. It will be worth it. Again, if you want to have a chat with me, you can put a comment in the comment box below, or you can friend my Discord and we can have a few voice chats and stuff like that, right? So yeah, this video is very long. I know that no one's probably going to watch this, but yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.